Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 5 O'Clock Sweats podcast. I am your host, Derek, joined by...
Ryan.
And Chris.
Yeah, that one comes at you a little fast, huh? This episode is going to be a continuation of last week's episode. Last week, we found a couple of lists of what people said were the greatest games ever. From those lists, we looked at the games that we've played, and we've just been talking about them. So where did we leave off? I think the next thing we're talking about that one of us has played is Fallout New Vegas. And I think that's me. Did you guys play this one?
Nope.
Have you guys played any Fallout games?
I've tried Fallout. Is it Fallout 4? Is that one?
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, and I'm not a Bethesda guy, to be honest. Like, Bethesda feels like every Bethesda game kind of feels like old. And I don't know how to explain that, but I felt like when I tried Fallout, it just like the combat is like, isn't it like very like turn-based
It's
kind
slow.
of?
It's slow.
I don't even know how to explain it. It just didn't feel like what I expected it to. So kind of for that reason, I'm not a Fallout guy. Probably a hot take, though. I know Fallout's pretty popular, so I might be in the minority there for not liking it.
Yeah, I feel like they feel old because it feels like they're all the same game, just like reskinned. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it feels like it's the same code that's running on all of their games, like all of their subpar games.
Side note, makes me really concerned for Starfield.
Yeah. No, dude, I'm actually pretty optimistic for Starfield.
I saw something bad that like the graphics are like somebody compared the graphics to Fallout. I guess Fallout 4. That's like what 10 years old, maybe more.
Ooh, hate
and
that.
It was like the exact same graphics, and then like people were basically bashing Bethesda. So I'm already a little I don't know, overhyped, under-delivered is kind of where I think it's gonna land, but. I mean, I hope it succeeds. But that's
when does it come out?
Side note.
Early access is next month, like in a month or so. So
yeah.
End of August,
September?
and then September, I think it releases.
Gotcha.
Look, graphics don't make a good game. So I watched that 45-minute, the whole showcase they did during the Xbox showcase a month or so ago, and the gameplay looks fun. Like, I know we just said that Fallout gameplay is slow and kind of clunky, but this looks smooth. Like, from what I saw, I'm really excited. I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah, and the other thing, Chris, you said was the combat feel is weird, and I think you're right. Like, for a game that I feel like I would classify as a shooter, actually playing in first-person shooting mode, you won't hit anything. Like, you'll be so inefficient with it. Like, you have to use their VATS system where you target each extremity with like a percentage, and
exactly
it takes forever.
It felt like cool, honestly, it felt like you're playing like a trading card game where you're just like, all right, this is my turn, I'm gonna do this. And then you're like, all right, now what are you going to do? And it just like felt like going back and forth. Like when I played the combat, I don't know. I could be bugging, but that's just sort of my impression. But I don't take what I say seriously because I literally played like an hour.
Yeah. And I think the Fallout franchise, the biggest strength is the world building. Mm-hmm. Like just the post-apocalyptic stuff is super cool. How everything's like all, 1920s or whatever, like that's super cool. And this just being Vegas themed is cool too, but other than that, not really a ton to say about it. I think this is one of those games where there was a glitch, and like every time I would get to that point, it would just crash my game, so I don't think I ever finished it.
Not another one of those games. Oh no,
Bethesda, man.
Yeah, I've only played 3, and I agree. The world building's great, and the environmental storytelling's great, and the characters, are fleshed out, and the story's good. But yeah, I mean, if you're in it for that, I mean, it definitely hits all those notes. But yeah, the combat, at least for us, leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I forgot I was doing this. Yeah, man, you got a good eye there. Speaking of a good eye, he might call it a golden eye. GoldenEye 007 97. Who's played this one?
Oh, that's me. That's me for sure. That is like prime N64 memories. I think what makes this game so important, aside from it just being like a fun game, there's like a lot of iconic parts to it. Obviously, there was just like a perfection to like the score or the soundtrack, whatever you want to call it. And there was just for me, it was cool to see like the parallel between the game and the actual movie. Because I grew up watching a lot of James Bond and playing a lot of the games. So this one, like each mission you could like really see, especially for like the 90s, like they got it really close to the movie, in a lot of situations. So I always felt like that was really cool for me to have kind of been able to compare those two.
I don't know if I've ever played the missions. I feel like I've only ever played like the multiplayer part of it.
Yeah, the missions are great, and like it does basically follow the same order as the movie. And then there's like the classic like split screen co-op, or not co-op, just like versus multiplayer. That was fun too, because I remember there were a couple cheat codes, like you could do something for like giant heads. And I'm not even kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone literally like had a humongous head. And then, which looked kind of funny back then because like the character models, obviously like at the time they looked good, but like looking back, they were literally like just cubes. Their whole head was a cube, but the face just wrapped around it awkwardly. But I think they had like the golden gun, and there were like a couple other like kind of like quirks to it that were fun. But I just love that game. It was at the time like super advanced. You know, you could free aim, right? I think you could hold, was it Z? Yeah, right, Z, and then it was wonky as hell on the N64, but you could like just kind of like it was like a little target symbol, and you could kind of free aim. Hip fire was
like
OP.
Return to the center or something.
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah, it was
I
kind
could
of
never
like
get the hang of it.
Yeah, it felt weird, and honestly, God, I don't even know if I ever used that. Most of the game you're just hip firing and just spraying shit. But yeah, I love the missions. It was it paired well with the movie visually. Back then it was cool. Plus, I mean, who doesn't love James Bond in the 90s?
Right.
Yeah, hard to argue that. It was a lot of people's first FPS too, which I think is pretty special. Mm-hmm. It was like everyone's first introduction to it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You've played this, right?
I've played it, but I'll admit very limited time. Like maybe if I added up my entire time, it's maybe only added up to like a couple hours.
Yeah, I feel like the most I played it was sophomore year of college when we lived next door to, our group of friends.
Yeah.
We would just go over there and play GoldenEye with the girls.
Yeah, and that was on N64, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, now it's on Game Pass. Like the other month, I downloaded it. Yeah, I put it on the Xbox, and it's like it holds up. It's obviously doesn't feel the same as it did, but you're never gonna beat the menu music. So it had a really cool menu. When you pause the game, it goes to his watch face.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, which like back then I was like, that's dope. And that was the cool thing too, is you got to kind of use some of the James Bond like. And it was limited in terms of the gadgets you could use, but like, there was one mission where like you're using the laser from his watch, which is also a scene in the movie. So I don't know. There was just a lot of cool things. And, when I was probably like under 10 years old at that point. So it like felt like I was in the movie. So definitely, for me, I think it lands much higher than it does on probably some of these other lists.
I know Chris loves this movie, or he loves that game. He mentions it all the time. Just out of nowhere.
Hey, man, I think it's grand. Speaking of grand, Grand Theft Auto. I think the first one we encounter here is GTA 3, which I've actually never played. I think I played 4 and 5, a little bit of San Andreas. Who's played 3 here?
I have not. Ryan, have you?
Yeah, so I marked this one, but I'm kind of getting the GTA's a little confused. It was GTA. I'm trying to think if it was Vice. I think that was Vice City, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm pretty sure it was Grand Theft Auto 3 Vice City was the full title. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But
or where's San Andreas in there? Is that 2?
San Andreas is
looks like Vice City was after GTA 3.
Okay. So maybe I
but either way, the GTA
one,
franchise.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about GTA in general here. Yeah, so So my experience, you know,
we must have hit this last episode, right? Because
yeah,
we were talking about going bowling with Roman, right?
My cousin.
Wait, Nico Bellic, right? Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I mean, no need to reiterate, but GTA is a ton of fun. You don't obey by the rules or anything like that. You basically are you live as a criminal, like a virtual criminal in this game. And it was also like my introduction to cheat codes and whatnot. Cheat codes were a ton of fun.
GTA 3. So this is, what console is this? Is this
I think it's
OG Xbox?
I think it's OG Xbox and PlayStation 2. I think.
No, PS1.
Oh my god.
Oh, I don't know.
Somebody in the comments
it says
sort me out there.
PlayStation 2, it looks like.
2, okay.
An OG Xbox.
Oh, yeah,
I was
that
gonna
makes
say.
sense. PS2 came out in 2000. Is listed as a 2001 game.
Wait, did it really come out in 2000?
Yeah.
No.
According to Google. So
2001.
Yeah, grain of salt.
That just broke me right there. Oh my god.
Yeah, don't do the math. That's too far.
Oh my gosh.
I can't do math anyway, so.
Oh man.
All right, well, we don't have to really talk about that too much, but yeah, anyway. GTA
yeah, that'll be
fun.
the final thing we say about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of final,
that was good. That was so good.
Man, the first one of those, this episode, did you see like the look of dread on my face? I was like, oh fuck, I did that dumb thing last time. I got to keep doing it now.
Continuity, baby.
Speaking of Final Fantasy X. We talked about this at least a couple times in some past episodes. This is one of my favorite games growing up. One of the first real RPGs that I got invested in, like the story. We had the strategy guide growing up, so I looked up all the stats on all the chocobos you could ride, and getting all the different items and stuff.
Totally forgot about strategy guides.
Yeah, every time they come up, it opens a portal into the past.
Wow.
Memory unlocked.
Good times. Yeah, like buying a companion book to beat a game because you were not going to look up a YouTube video on how to do that.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
You couldn't.
That's awesome. Exactly.
Yeah. I think some other Final Fantasies are in this list. Final Fantasy VII. It was actually the second one that I played. That's the one with Cloud Strife. Pretty famous character, pretty famous game, honestly. Also got remastered. Bunch of spin-off content made. Final Fantasy, very good. Have you guys played any Final Fantasies?
No.
Not.
You know why? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Final Fantasy has been a PlayStation exclusive. Am I wrong? I might be wrong.
That sounds right.
It feels right, but I know they're also on PC, so
you know what?
Exclusive with loose air quotes.
So that's honestly the reason I haven't is one, because there's so many of them. I'm so confused as to what is the current and
right.
Not current games. Also, I love RPGs, but I also hate them. I have a real problem where I get super hyped on an RPG game. We've talked about this. And I put 30 or 40 hours into it, and then I just never pick it up again. And there's usually no reason why. It's just the fact that I prefer sometimes I could just play a game where I just get on, play it, get off. Get on, play it, get off. So that's why I tend to be more like a multiplayer gamer. But I don't have an excuse. They're great games, and claiming myself to be such an avid gamer, I really should have a few of them under my belt.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I'm also a Final Fantasy virgin. I've not played a minute of the games. I've only heard of them. I mean, I've heard of them a ton, and Derek plays them, and then we have a couple other friends that have played them as well. So all I know is like the art style, and I always get like Final Fantasy and like Kingdom Hearts confused because the art style, besides the Disney characters, is like pretty similar.
Yeah, it's the same companies, right?
Well,
Square Enix / Square / I guess Squaresoft, whatever the iterations are there. That's probably why.
Gotcha.
But yeah, just across the franchise, I think they also do a pretty good job of world building. I think that's something, like, the games are technically all discrete. Like, you don't have to play one to know what's going on in the rest of them.
Yeah, I was always wondering
kind of in the
that.
same universe.
Because why, and I just don't really like when games just number like that many. Because how many are there? Like, there's 14?
Yeah, at least.
So that's
14 or 15, right?
That's an insane amount of games, and I don't even know, like, because some people are like, oh, like 10 is like the best, or like, but I don't know, like, where do I jump in? Do I skip some, or do I start at one? I don't know.
I think they changed recently. I feel like there are more MMOs now instead of like straight up RPGs, but
I'm sure. Well, listen, somewhere there's a valley of us non-Final Fantasy playing whatever you want to call us.
Right. What the hell is he talking about? Oh, could it be the next game on our list? Stardew Valley?
He's pulling a Derek. He took a play out of Derek's book. Wow. All right.
I played Stardew Valley, and Stardew Valley is phenomenal. I didn't want a Nintendo Switch, and then I visited my sister during, I guess, 2021, 2020, something like that, and she had a Switch, and the only thing on it was Stardew Valley, and the entire weekend I was there, that is all I did. I just hijacked the Switch, played Stardew Valley, and by the time I got back here on, what was that, Sunday night, I bought a Switch just to play this game, and I played the fuck out of it.
So that is something I will say. I've heard nothing but great things about Stardew Valley. But I think what's so interesting about what you were just saying is, like, I think everyone that has a Switch bought it for one particular game, and then, like, you just kind of got hooked onto it. I don't know. I might jump into that because I need a Switch game. I love the portability of the Switch. It doesn't cater to a lot of the types of games that I play, but I do, like, Stardew Valley is pretty chill, right? Like, tell me just real quick what it's like about, kind of.
Yeah, so it's like a farming / life simulator.
Good.
You move to a town, you start a farm, get to know the townspeople. There are romantic options. There's seasons, so your crops only grow in certain seasons. Animals, all that jazz.
Sounds
Did you
like
just describe? No, Animal Crossing.
Oh, it's a book.
Animal Farm?
Wait, isn't that? Animal Crossing. Yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's more Harvest Moon than Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is you just show up on an island.
Bro, I can't believe you just referenced a book we read like 15 years ago for like school.
Stop doing the math. I hate it.
Probably more than that, honestly, but he said Animal Farm.
I mean, I'm a little far off, okay. But
yeah, it's all right. It's all right. But I was thinking the same thing. It definitely sounds like Animal Crossing, which is not a bad thing. That's a very chill vibe.
Yeah,
I just kind of
put it in the cozy gamer category.
Ooh,
which I
need
think
more of those.
That's a good genre.
I think it's good.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's wild that one guy made it. He coded everything. He did all of the artwork. He did all of the music and released it.
Dude, that dude's a god.
It's nuts. Absolute god. God of what? Not God of
You tell me.
War. Can't be.
Whoa.
God of War. This one is listing the 2018 version, which is, in fact, the only one I've played. I heard it was a good way to like jump into the franchise because it was kind of a reboot of his story while still being a continuation of what happened in the previous ones. And I loved this game.
It just came out on excuse me, Steam.
Oh yeah?
Steam released the God of War 2018, and I'm half tempted. I don't own a place to see. This is another
Again,
PlayStation exclusive. Yeah, but it's actually one of the games that's like sort of made me really consider buying a PS5. I don't know about. I don't know if either of you guys have a PS5.
I do.
I do not. Oh yeah, Derek does. I don't, but I would like to get one someday. There are a lot of games I want to play. God of War is one of the franchises I've always wanted to try. I know I would love it for sure.
Yeah, with this one, it's the first thing I think about is how great the game looks, and like it's just so satisfying to play a game that looks good all of the time.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, it's cool Norse shit.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a very unique like time period in terms of the theme. How many hours can you like sink into this? Is it like linear or it's like open?
It's kind of open. So it's the whole thing where you can technically go most places on the map, but you know, paths open up the more missions you do, all that stuff. I don't know what my completion percentage was. I definitely got to the end credits, but there's a lot of stuff I didn't do.
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of on purpose because I'm definitely the kind of guy that wants to complete everything, but I needed to make the conscious decision like, nope, gotta draw the line.
Just do the story. Yeah, because then you miss out on like completing the story because you just burn out doing, trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel with a lot of games. I tend to just follow the main quests, experience like at least the majority of what is intended, and then if I can branch out for some of the side stuff, I do it. But if I do side stuff, I'm never gonna finish it.
Yeah, maybe that's just your fate. No, that's not the word.
I think you're looking for destiny. Hey. I had a whole thing planned. I was gonna go in and say something, but it's okay. It's okay.
Maybe it's best that you don't.
We got plenty. I got plenty of time for me to get my time in the limelight. So Destiny, the first one, and all of them, but mainly the first one. Bungie's first game after leaving the Halo franchise, and boy was I hyped for this when it first came out. And it really, looking back, it did not disappoint, even if, and Chris can attest to this, maybe we didn't play it for as long as we would have liked, but it did keep our attention for, a solid few months, and maybe even that first year, it was pretty present in our game rotation.
So I would agree with that. I think and Ryan, you'll probably agree. The main problem when I say we, like the group of people that we played with for Destiny 1, I think the main issue was a lack of content. It very much felt like it was promised to be a large game, and then we were like doing the same like 3 things for like a solid like 2 months. And then of course you had like the Crucible PvP, which felt like they were still trying to kind of hit on a lot of those like Halo mechanics, which for the most part that worked. But it was an odd kind of setup where like you felt like you were being pushed and pulled between like PvE content and then PvP content. And I really liked the PvE. Shout out to the loot cave. I'm sure a lot of people remember the Destiny 1 loot cave.
Yes.
But shout out to that. I liked it, but I really think Destiny 2 really nailed what they were going for in Destiny 1.
And that's the current one, right?
Yeah, Destiny 2 has been my gosh, though, it's current as of 2017, it's still going. That game is now free to play, but the expansions are paid. And for instance, I got back into Destiny 2 like earlier this year. Or maybe it was like the fall. I don't remember when it was, but it was within the last year. And I like randomly ended up spending like $100 on the game, and I don't know where it went. Like I bought a few expansions just to like have content to play, and they're like still like $30 a piece because the game's free to play. But it's fun. It's still the same thing though. It's like, they have their daily, their weekly things that you want to do, and then like you kind of check those things off the list, and you're like, all right, do I want to keep replaying it or like move on to something else? And so it's still kind of struggled to like hold on to me for more than like a month at a time.
Yeah, that was like one of my first like looter shooters, I guess. I always loved, like I really enjoyed like getting a group of people and playing the quests. I always thought those were fun, like the PvE experience, and the enemies get progressively harder, and then like the big boss battle at the end had a lot of scale to it, and spectacle too. I always thought those were fun for the time that we played them. And then the multiplayer was a lot of fun too. It definitely like had that Halo feel to it. Obviously, Bungie's first game after Halo, it's gonna have, and it's an FPS, it's gonna have that feel. But you try playing the multiplayer now, like I tried playing Destiny 2 multiplayer a few months ago, and the learning curve is huge. Like you can't just jump into that game and play well. Like you're getting your ass kicked. Like I was awful.
Yeah, because it's tied into like the PvE too. Like so, like there's meta weapons obviously, but like you have to loot those weapons, and then there's just a lot of different variables. But from what I saw, Bungie kind of let the PvP fall by the wayside, and I think they realized like their money is in the PvE content, because there's only so much you can do for PvP. So from what I've seen, and it might have changed in the last couple months with the last one or two expansions, but they weren't really doing much to the PvP, and I think a lot of those players felt kind of alienated and left behind. So I don't know where it stands now, but I mean, that's definitely a knock. I think any game that's tried to balance PvE and PvP content, there's going to be a compromise somewhere. And I've not played a game like that like can equally balance it. For example, like The Division, that's like my favorite looter shooter game.
Oh, okay. Took me a while to remember what that one was.
Yeah, it was a flop overall, but that was another game that it just couldn't balance PvE, PvP, like, and then it starts to intertwine them, and that's when you start to have like you said, that learning curve where it's like, because I'm not doing like raids and stuff like that, I don't have the meta weapons to use in PvP. Even though the stats are normalized in PvP, like your rolls don't matter, I don't think. It still makes you feel like behind, and like it's intimidating to even get back into. And that's kind of why I got into it, and then like sort of just fell off again.
Yeah. Well, I don't really need, so yeah, I agree. Destiny was a ton of fun, but next game, I don't really have a clever transition because I kind of already said it, but next on the list, we have Bungie's not first game technically, but their second.
Oh, we're talking franchise, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
the first franchise, I guess. Yeah, technically. Halo. Specifically Halo 3, which I think a lot of people, in a lot of people's opinion, is probably the best Halo out of the group. I have my own opinions on that, but I would be lying if I didn't say that Halo 3 has like a very, very special place in my heart for a lot of reasons.
For
probably
sure.
Probably most importantly, it was like, again, I've mentioned this before, but that golden age of gaming, 2007, like that was just gaming at its peak. Xbox Live, the 360 was launching, like, and Halo 3, and then Call of Duty had their games, and it just took the world by storm. And it was also the conclusion to the story, which it garnered a lot of fandom over the years, and it was super popular, and they didn't fumble the bag at all. It was a very satisfying conclusion to the story. And Yeah, it was just a really well executed game. The multiplayer is iconic. The it still looks great. Like props to the lighting in that game. You boot it up now, it looks like it could be like a semi-modern shooter just based off the lighting and the art style. Like
Yeah, like
aged,
previous generation.
Yeah, it aged so well. Like I'll go back and play that. Like when I boot up the Master Chief Collection, I'm usually playing Halo 3 multiplayer because it just plays so well, and it's also like got the most population on it. So yeah, I mean, Derek, I know you played some Halo 3 back in the day.
Oh yeah, I played a lot of Halo. I feel like when I think about Halo 1, 2, and 3, like that's where I made a ton of friends as a kid. And like I was a super like socially awkward kid. I mean, I guess I'm a little socially awkward now, but I mean, Halo 3, like I would play with all of our high school friends. Like that's what kind of introduced me to, like, it was a new school for me. I mean, it was a new school for everybody, but a lot of people already knew each other. But Halo 3 was my way to kind of, break in and socialize with people.
Yeah.
If we go back to Halo 2, which I know you've got some strong positive feelings for.
Oh, yes.
Like that's where I, forged some pretty strong bonds with the group of kids that I grew up with. And even going back to Halo 1, like that's where I met the friend that I still play video games with today. Shout out Devin. Like it's
Devin.
Definitely responsible for, some of the biggest friendships in my life.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Halo, I mean, and Halo 3 in particular, like that was like the social aspect is always like the biggest thing for me. I made so many friends playing Halo, and then Halo 3 was really like what kicked off like all the LAN parties we used to have back in the day. Like that was really the first game that I played that, we would all gather together and have those LAN parties. And then that roster of games expanded over the years, but Halo 3 was the first, and yeah, I'll always look back on that game fondly. Chris, did you ever play Halo 3? You definitely played.
So I've actually played like every Halo to some extent, but not enough to be able to tell you the difference between like Halo 2 and 3. I have definitely played Halo 3. I will agree with you, though, if we're just kind of talking about this era of gaming, like the 2007 to probably like 10 or 11 range, like a very peak area of gaming at least in my life. And I think it's due in part to like you said, the social component of it. Like this is like probably like high school era. So like we're meeting a lot of new people, but like you're finding a lot of mutual friends through the game, kind of like sort of like finding out who you kind of vibe with, who you don't. Yeah. And this like pairs up with like there's Halo 3, like Gears of War 1 and 2, Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty World at War. Like those are all those games like right in that same time frame. And it was like, I just loved the fact it was like competing to be relevant and stay in the party, right? Because an Xbox party back then had like a limit. I don't know what it is anymore, but we would actually have so many people online at one time that you couldn't fit into the party.
Yeah, it was like maybe 8. I feel like 8 is a good number to say what the cap was.
And then you would have to boot people. And so like it was like in all of these games, it was like competing to, like you would in like basketball, right? Like you're going to hold the court. Like it was the same thing. Like you want to hold your spot in the lobby. Like you got to play well.
You got to perform. Yeah.
You do.
We'd look at the stat sheet after the game or the kill feed and be like, oh, who's at the bottom? And then you would ask the question, the classic question.
You'd have a couple people on that like you're like weren't that good, and then like you'd see the notification of like a few other people that popped online and they're like much better, and so you're like everyone's like kind of side texting like, oh shit, like how do we break this up and like play with the better people?
That's when you ask them what's the shape of Italy, and then they're gone.
Call back. Sometimes those other people are just like not good at controlling their own player. You know what I mean? And speaking of somebody controlling digital avatars, that's something you do in The Sims, which I have played. Oh, did you guys get that seamless transition?
Yeah, that was pretty.
Damn, nailed it.
I don't know if there's a ton I can actually say about this game. My sister got it, and she got like The Sims 2 and a ton of the expansion packs. I just played them because they were there. But I feel like in my memory, these are the first set of games on the PC that were like 3D.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I remember Solitaire. I remember, what was it, Space Cadet Pinball, the skiing game on Windows 98 or Windows 95 or whatever it was.
Yes.
But like The Sims 1, even with like low polygons, like I feel like that's one of the ones that I started to realize, like, oh, like this actually kind of looks like the real world.
I think too, this has to be like the start of online dating, right? Like this probably was like the proof of concept for that.
Oh my god.
I have no idea though, for real. Like in the Sims games, were you playing with other real people in the instance, or were they all like?
I think they were all NPCs. At least I never played one where it was multiplayer. I think you might have been able to like meet up in town in some of the later expansions, but
because what are they on now? Sims 4?
I have no idea.
I honestly, God, I don't think I've ever touched the Sims game. I don't know. Seems like a social experiment to me.
I was always bad at it. Just like in Minecraft or in like any base building game, I don't know how to design like houses or decorate rooms. It's always just a big square. And if I need another room, it's just another big square next to that other square.
Yeah.
So like that's how all of my houses have turned out in any game that I play.
That's funny you say that though, because speaking of just rooms and going to other rooms, the next one that I really want to bring up, and I know Derek will be able to talk about this a bit, is Hades. This is a game where you literally, quite literally, go from one room to the next room.
Oh yeah.
And you try to clear out all the enemies, and I've not, other than this, so this was my first roguelike game, and I'm not really accustomed to that style, but what I found to be like super addicting about this game is that it's like actually designed for you to fail and fail a lot. And there's that like that kind of like that power creep where each time you fail, you learn a little different mechanic, or like maybe I want to do something differently, or you actually get objectively stronger with like upgrades, whether it's weapons or whatever. So that's what I loved about this game is like each failure, I felt like, okay, I'm actually coming back stronger the next go. And that was really fun. Obviously the combat's addicting. You can just, like the pace of the game's insane. It's so fast, and I don't know, it's like visually so pleasing. The music's great, the voice acting's phenomenal. Like there was not one thing about that game that I didn't like, other than the fact that I totally suck at it.
I am 100% with you, like on everything. Like it just looks good, it sounds good, it feels good. Like the game was designed very well. It runs and plays very well. I actually had the day off today, and I knew we were recording tonight, and I decided to launch this game today. Decided, I'd play like a run or two. I accidentally played for 4 hours. 4 hours. I didn't eat dinner. I was playing this game.
Oh no,
it's so good.
It epitomizes that like one more, you know what I mean, feeling.
Yeah.
Like you're like, all right, one more run. You're like, I know exactly what to do to beat this boss. Like I can clear this, I can do it. And then like you said, next thing you know, it's 4 hours later and you're still getting shit on by that boss.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I have never played Hades, so I mean, I've I've only heard good things about it, and I know like the amount of hype it generated when it first came out. And there's a few of these games, aren't there?
Yeah. There's from the same studio, I believe, too, right?
Oh, I don't know about these.
But regardless, I think what's fun about Hades too is, from what I understand, it plays well like on any kind of like platform. So like even the Switch plays well. Obviously, Steam Deck would probably be pretty epic. I played it on PC. I think it's available for console too.
Yeah. I played it on PC mostly, but I did play it on the Switch when I was back at my parents' place for the holidays.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it on the Switch. I heard like they got it to run really well. But do you use a gamepad or a mouse and keyboard for it?
Mouse and keyboard. I tried a PS5 controller for the gun that you eventually unlock, but it made sense for like analog aiming, but it didn't feel as good as mouse and key did to me.
Somehow I ended up down like a rabbit hole. This is a while back, like maybe a few years, and I was watching Hades speed runs, and every one of them was using a controller. So I don't know what it is about controller, but it I think is kind of like the meta, if there is a meta on how to play that game. But I used mouse and key, and I felt like that was fun too. So, but I like that, like when you can kind of just do what you want in a game. Play on any console or any system and it plays great. Any input plays well. It's like it doesn't take away from the game. And in fact, it kind of like, and they did what do you call it? Cross progression.
Yeah, so that's why I was able to play on the Switch. Nice. I could just load up my save data from Steam.
That is such an epic feature, especially for that kind of game, because you don't really want to start from ground zero when you have like actual power. And then to start from the from the ground again is difficult. But yeah, Hades is a top game. I have not given it enough attention, but it's certainly special to me.
Yeah, Ryan, if you can find a way to play this game, I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it's cheap too.
It might be on Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken, or if it's not on Game Pass, it's on console. So it's probably discounted at this point.
Yeah, I got it on Steam for like $15, and this is like a couple years ago when it was like still new. So you could definitely pick it up for like probably under 20, and it's like I think it's worth 30 or more. But
yeah, man, take a look at it. Take a portal into the underworld. Hey, speaking of Portal, look at that. Portal. I think I'm the only one who's played the Portal games here, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, pretty much anything from Valve in this era, I feel like felt very good. Portal and Portal 2 are two games that, to me, ran extremely smoothly. Like the Portal mechanics and all the physics felt realistic. Realistic air quotes. Like you still had people speed running this shit, but like these games were, I feel like, witty. It felt like, what was it? Borderlands 2. I feel like people were very, not critical, but people liked the like funny, quippy dialogue in Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like Portal was like the predecessor to that.
Is this tied into Half-Life at all, or am I just completely...
I don't know, actually.
They're not, probably not. I don't know why I get the two names kind of mixed up as to which is which game.
Right.
I feel like I heard that. Is Portal 2 like the game that's notoriously hard to run on PC though?
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah,
if it was, then I didn't have a super hard time running it.
Okay, well then it's not. There's like a meme of there's one game that just like to this day people say like modern PCs still can't run it, and it might be Half-Life, to be honest. I think
in my mind it's Crysis.
Oh no, that's what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Crysis was a bitch to run. Like
that's
any of
exactly
that, really.
what it was.
Those were also very good games. Yeah. It was like Far Cry in a mech suit. That's what Crysis was to me.
Well, if you remember in the OG days, the original Far Cry was very hard to run. It was like a super demanding game for PC. I remember I actually had a birthday party at like Ryan. I think you were there at like a. It was like a PC gaming place, and we played Far Cry. And this is obviously like way back in the day, and like I remember, Far Cry looked like the most amazing game I had ever seen in my life. And then I think like one of my friends bought it and tried to play it on like his parents' like gateway, and it basically turned the thing into like a toaster oven. It was bad, dude.
Yeah, my experience with it was like a 4 or 5 disc install.
Yeah.
And when all was said and done, I launched it and something didn't install correctly. So some shader, some texture pack. There was no ground anywhere.
No, dude,
all I saw was trees.
Oh, shit.
That's exactly what we had. There was like no world.
Yeah, so I just never played it.
Yeah, I think that was basically like its way of saying like get better. You know what I mean? Like like your gateway or whatever. What was like your Dell?
Yeah,
your parents'
exactly.
Dell is not going to run that shit.
Yeah, but at that point, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to actually troubleshoot that. I didn't know what was wrong. It was complete uncharted territory.
Also, didn't know that there's like minimum requirements for games.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, great transition, Derek, as always.
Whatsoever do you mean?
I had one planned for this one.
Damn.
So, Uncharted 2.
Okay. We can go back. Far Cry. Fucking discs, right? Oh, no world.
I was going to say, well, you said you didn't know how to do certain things, and I was like, that's going to be uncharted territory for you. And then I was going to... Wait. I had it
so
queued
your
up in
transition was my transition?
Basically. Dude, the gears were turning. Like, there's steam coming off the top of my head right now. Like, I was cooking. Uncharted 2. I've played Uncharted 2. It was really my first foray into, like, a big PlayStation franchise. I did not play the first Uncharted. I jumped right into Uncharted 2. And you know, the story wise, probably, you know, had to do a little bit of catching up on, like, you know, look quick like YouTube video or something, just read up on the characters and whatnot. But besides that, for what it was, like, the game was a hell of a fun time to play. Third person kind of action adventure puzzle game with amazing set pieces, and fun gameplay mechanics, like whether you're in hand-to-hand combat, or, you know, shooting. But I think the most fun I had in this game was just like traversing the world. There was a lot of parkour. You're doing like kind of like Assassin's Creed-esque, where you're climbing, you know, you're scaling walls and having to avoid things like while they're falling. And then I gotta mention the main protagonist, Nathan Drake. I listed him. I think I mentioned him on my list of iconic characters from a game, and he's just like he's so cool. He's just like your badass, smooth talking, ladies man, very handsome, and I had to throw that in there.
Now I remember you did bring that up.
yeah, the handsome part kind of brought it back a little bit, but yeah, the game's just a ton of fun. The story's great, characters are great, and the set pieces are breathtaking. So, would highly recommend, if you guys haven't played, or have you played? Have either of you played any of the Uncharted games?
Yeah. Actually, I remember playing them with you, Ryan. I think on your like PS3 or whatever it was that you got, like way back in the day. Yeah, I always remember those games. Like, the word that I would say describes them is like very theatrical or like cinematic.
Yes.
I always felt like it was playing a movie. And I know that's obviously what they were going for, but that's what it felt like. And it was damn fun. I don't know. I think I've played the first one. I don't know about any of the others, but I'm sure they all followed the same formula in terms of being, you know, super, super structured and linear, but in a good way.
Yeah, it was pretty linear. Not like they didn't really have like an open world per se. I mean, there were some things you could look like you could go down different pathways and find like hidden objectives or collectible items and whatnot. But yeah, as you mentioned, like the cinematography of the game. There's one sequence in particular where you're basically in a plane and like the back door opens up and everything flies out and you're like hanging on for dear life on like one of the like a net that's hanging from a crate, and you're like having to climb up, try to get back to the plane, and you're like avoiding shit that's flying at you. I mean, it's just like, so like the scale again is just huge. For a lot
you
of
brought
like,
this. You brought this game to college, right? Uncharted 3, at least. Because I remember, this is the only scene I remember from this game. And it's because you were playing it in our room.
Yeah,
and they have this in the movie, too, right? The Tom Holland movie?
It's yeah, which I haven't seen. I actually want to see. I heard it was actually pretty good. But I don't know if I agree with Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake. I don't really see that from him, but, you know, I'll check it out. But, yeah, Uncharted, fantastic series. I've played 2 and 3, both great. I would love to go back and play the first one and actually replay all of them again.
Yeah, but you are right. I mean, the size was pretty, I'd say colossal.
That's a great word.
That one didn't feel good, boys. Shadow of the Colossus. This is one I remember playing. This shows up a lot in people's like top games list, and I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it deserves to be this late in the list. Visually, very good. And, you know, how old would I have been then? Like, 12-year-old me loved taking a sword, going up to, like, gigantic monsters and figuring out how to take them down with just my sword. Like, what more could I ask for? It turns out the answer is knowing what the fuck was going on, because you just show up in this world with, you know, like you're carrying someone in your arms, you lay them down on an altar, and you're like, I'm gonna fix this. And your character doesn't say anything the whole time, and there's just kind of like cryptic messages that spirits whisper to you, like every time you defeat something. And I just couldn't really follow it, but I liked the big monster killing. Did you guys ever play this?
Yeah.
No, I
haven't.
I didn't even know what it was.
Oh, you never heard of it?
No, I just actually looked it up, and it's giving Elden Ring vibes.
I could see that.
A little preview. No, so I'm in the same boat as Derek. Like, I haven't played it, but I've seen it on a lot of people's top games list, and I've seen, like, I don't know if it's like the cover art for the game, but like it's like your soldier and then like the giant Lord of the Rings looking monster in front of you.
It does look like a big ent, doesn't it?
It does, actually. Yeah, as good pull by you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have no idea what it's about, but I always thought it looked cool. I do enjoy games where, you know, I'm fighting monsters. Colossal monsters.
Yeah, fighting. That's funny. It's funny you bring that up, because the next game on the list is Street Fighter 2. These are getting worse, man. Am I just tired? Like, what's wrong with me?
We've done a ton of these.
We're in the home stretch. We're just gonna push through them.
Yeah.
I'm actually very bad at pretty much all fighting games like this, like arcade fighting games. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I take the strategy of just button mashing. I could land something and have no clue what I did to do that. So I'm not a fighting gamer at all. I couldn't tell you the last, Mortal Kombat in like the 90s, which by the way is fun as hell, but like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I feel like the most I ever played was with friend of the show, JSP. We would play some fighting games at his place growing up, but I never really knew what was going on. I would look up the combinations and like try them, but I never knew when to use them.
Yeah.
So like it was always just a wash for me.
There's a lot of strategy. Plus, I just always felt like when I would play like somebody, like local, like, split screen or whatever, like, and they own the game, like they always knew the best fighters to pick. And I was always picking some dude that looked cool and then ended up sucking. You know what I mean? I was that guy. I picked the best looking characters and they, for some reason, oftentimes sucked. Obviously, I made them worse because I sucked as well, but it's not my thing. Fighting games are not my thing, but I do there's a huge competitive component to them, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I would always choose my fighting characters based off of their aesthetic. And yeah, they would suffer the same fate. They would lose because I suck. And side note, my only exposure to Street Fighter, like playing it, was at Denny's in the arcade section. I'm pretty sure they had a Street Fighter arcade game there, and I would play that when we were waiting to get seated. So
that was a different vibe, though. The arcade versions, I found, like, even of Mortal Kombat, I thought those were more fun.
Yeah,
because
me too.
there were like you had the joystick to move, and there were like 2, 3 buttons for attacking. Yeah, 4. Versus like where it's at now with like, you play it on a console and there's all these, buttons from the controller. I find the arcade versions to be kind of where I would be more willing to play fighting games.
Yeah, it definitely leveled the playing field.
Yeah,
and helps me.
I feel like. Good.
I'm cooking. It helped me fine tune my craft. Next game on the list. We
You gotta transition a little better.
He just goes.
Gotta put meat on both sides of that.
I said
and
fine
then it's
tune
just
my craft.
quiet.
My craft.
Yeah, but
and then you
went, and then you just went, next game on the list, Minecraft.
All right. I'm getting there. Okay.
Did you guys play this? I played this.
Like for 20 minutes one time.
I played for like an hour, maybe.
This was the first purchase I made, like, with my first debit card, and it happened in our room freshman year, because our friend Donald was like, you guys should get Minecraft. And I was like, I should get Minecraft. So I just fucking bought Minecraft in 2011.
Jedi mind tricked you.
Yeah. And now I just have Minecraft.
Yeah, I played with my ex, who was a big fan of this game. She played it all the time. And she was like, oh, try with me. I was like, okay, I'll try it with you. Like, I don't know. The games like this don't really grab me. But, I played it, and we basically just, like, dug a hole in the house.
Nice, man.
In the basement of the house for, like, an hour. And, it was more
That's
more
such
fun
a good
than...
description of, like, early bases in Minecraft. You, like, build a box, and then you dig down to get rocks and shit.
Yeah, digging down and, getting rocks, and then going outside and chopping some trees down to get some wood. And I tried cooking too. Like I was the worst Minecraft cook. I didn't know how to combine ingredients. Like, I wouldn't eat the shit that I was cooking in that game.
Dude, that's so good.
Yeah, but my limited
experience. I feel like for me, Minecraft is more about like the creativity, which I think the world opens up there. Speaking of worlds that opened up, World of Warcraft. Did you guys play this? I played this.
No.
You both sighed and said no. I don't know how to read that.
Because it's like a Mount Rushmore game, and I just feel like I feel almost ashamed to say I haven't played it, but I'm also thankful maybe in a way because I've seen what it does to people.
So a couple of years ago, I tried, like when I first built a PC, I tried to get into WoW, and I just, it's so daunting to think about like where that game is and how long it's been around, and to like just be jumping into it brand new, it felt very overwhelming. And I'll be honest, like that is what's kind of prevented me from getting into the game.
Yeah,
Not so much the game itself, just the sheer kind of, just overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. And you really do need you need people to like teach you and kind of coach you through, because it's just so far past like beginner level, stuff. So there's really not much introduction anymore to like the game's mechanics or like shit. Yeah.
Yeah, this game, I feel like if I got into it now, I would have to like look up all of the things that I would need to learn and then learn them.
Yeah.
Like I had the advantage of I played this in high school with a couple of my friends, and it was during a blizzard. So like we didn't have school or anything. So I was just there for like a 4-day weekend playing World of Warcraft for the first time and like learning what the fuck was up.
Yeah. Well, I will say if there's one thing I'm thankful for World of Warcraft is its contribution to two of like the most iconic things, or not two of the most iconic, but some of the most iconic pop culture like videos and references that I can think of, and one of them is Leroy Jenkins.
Yep, forgot about that.
And then the my favorite South Park episode of all time, Make Love Not Warcraft. That was like
that's what I thought the first one was going to be.
Yeah. So those two things, I'm thankful for World of Warcraft for helping to create those memories.
Well, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. An Elden Ring. Next game on the list is Elden Ring. I did not play this one.
I got you here. Elden Ring. Where do I begin? Okay. Hardest game I've ever played. Most frustrating game I've ever played.
Oh, this is a Souls game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But also probably one of the most rewarding games I've ever played. Very much does not hold your hand whatsoever. Forces you to actually get better. Not so much like your character does get stronger, better weapons, better armor, better stats. But you, as the player, have to also learn mechanics and get better. And for me, that was kind of a new concept. I've not played a lot of games like this. It was my first game in, Souls game. From what I understand, this is actually like the more tame version of them, like compared to Dark Souls in terms of how kind of punishing it is. But I just felt like it was the most difficult game I think I've ever played. But once you kind of get rolling and like you beat some bosses, like there's such a rewarding feeling to actually like making a conscious effort and working up to beat a boss and then like actually doing it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times where you get to something in that game and you're like, I actually can't do this right now. And the game won't tell you that, right? And like other games, there's like levels above the characters and there'll be like, be like a red, X if it's like skull. They're just too strong for you, or skull, exactly. Like this game doesn't do that. There's minimal HUD elements. So you're really just dependent on kind of making your own decisions. And that's what's nice, is it's not linear. So you can really, I think in theory, some of the fastest completion times to finish like the final boss were like, it was like within an hour, I think.
Damn.
So you can like that's go impressive. In basically like, fully green, like literally no armor, barely weapons. And, I guess if you're good enough mechanically, you can beat the main boss or some of the higher level bosses. But overall, a great game. The world's beautiful. The combat is very good. Again, rewarding the more you do it and you kind of learn. And there's different kinds of builds, but it was one of those games where I had to I was pretty much glued to YouTube in order to make progress, which kind of feels a bit frustrating for someone of, my, I guess my inexperience in these kinds of games. It's not fun to have to constantly watch a YouTube video to see like, all right, how can I get to the point where I'm like not getting one shot by everything?
Right.
Yeah, I've never played this, and I thought about getting it when it first came out because of all the hype it generated, and like I'm seeing it all over my social media, like, people are sharing clips. But I thought about it, as like, is this really worth the toll it's going to take on my mental health? Is it really worth it?
No, it's not. Because I can tell you, if you're not accustomed to these kinds of games and you're not really willing to just like kind of grin and bear for like the first 15 hours, I don't think it's worth it for those kinds of people. But it's still like a masterful game. It's very hard to explain. It's not a game for everyone, and not all games need to be.
Right.
But for the people that it is for, it's a masterful game.
Yeah, I don't think these games are for me. Like, I feel like you got to be an adventurer or something like that to really like these games. And, you know, I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee. The next game is Skyrim. That was a bad one, huh?
Well,
No, that was good.
but if that's a reference that went over my head.
Yeah, that's one of the most memed lines in Skyrim. Took an arrow to the knee.
Okay.
I guess all of the Elder Scrolls series, I've only ever played Oblivion and Skyrim. I never played Morrowind. Skyrim's been out fucking forever. It keeps getting ported to every new generation of console.
Isn't it modded? Like modded to shit right now? Like there's so many great mods, and I think that's why it's still thriving, right?
Yeah, the mod community is crazy. Like, people love Skyrim. People love the other Elder Scrolls games like Morrowind and Oblivion. And they love those games so much that they've modded Skyrim to just be Morrowind and Oblivion running in Skyrim. Like, it's nuts the things people do. And I remember people would just like immediately a month after release, like the dragons that come down, they would replace them with Macho Man Randy Savage, and like his walkout music would be playing when the dragons swoop down. Like, shit just gets crazy. But
I only have experience with ESO. I played Elder Scrolls Online, but I've not played any of the other Elder Scrolls games. Are they related a lot or no? I don't know how that works.
I think they're all in universe, but I don't think the stories really touch each other.
Okay, yeah.
They use the calendar system of like, I think it's like ruler and year, and I never really took the time to learn like who was ruling the land during this time and like when is this game. But I liked the game. Gave me I must have played this for months on end without ever popping another disc into my Xbox.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about it. It's another game where like the hype, I understand the hype, and I've seen people play it, and it looks fun. It looks like, again, one of those games with a ton of spectacle. And I've seen the opening a couple of times. Actually, I don't know why I've seen the
another
intro.
very memed thing.
Yeah,
where it's like a fade in from black, and you're on a cart.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they always like. There's a ton of TikToks where like somebody gets knocked out and then they cut to that or something like that. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, I played this game so much. Like I'm very surprised I didn't ring my Xbox dead.
Ooh.
Oh, somebody else, please take it.
Oh, all right. Red Dead Redemption 2. This is this 2018's Game of the Year?
It sounds right. I feel like we brought that up on
I
another
think so.
episode. But I never
know it was
looked
2018, and I just feel like it had to have one Game of the Year.
God of War, apparently.
Oh, well, that would make sense. Okay, well, it
God
had
of
to be
War
up
and
there.
Red Dead 2 received 8 nominations each.
Yeah. So how does that work if
Close
you both
call.
get 8?
Rock, paper, scissors? I don't know.
Anyway, though, this is the follow-up to the OG Red Dead Redemption on Xbox 360. I think this game, for me, was another one where an absolute masterpiece of a game just like too much to do for me. And that is like that's a very positive thing, right? But for me, I got pulled into other games and I never quite made it back to finish Red Dead 2. Played a little bit of the online, was really disappointed in the online play. I'm sure it's changed drastically since, because that was the big pull for the OG Red Dead, is the online play felt pretty good. And actually, Ryan, I don't know if you remember, like Max Payne 3. I know we played that together, and that's another Rockstar title. And like back then, they were doing like awesome stuff online with like sort of like shooter party games. Like you could do like a straight up duel. Like there was like 12 of you in a circle, and like they would blow the whistle and you would just pop off on each other. Like they did that in Max Payne. They also did that in Red Dead, but I just felt like they lost a lot of that in Red Dead 2. Like the kind of fun multiplayer aspect. It was like that more open world multiplayer, kind of like GTA, which works in GTA, but not as fun when you're literally just riding horses around open fields. I don't know. Like it's in theory sounds great, but for me it didn't really hit the spot. The online, that is, but the story is great. The missions are fun. The world is insane. There's so much to explore, and obviously the voice acting's pretty damn good too.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is a game that I notoriously played for like an hour and have not.
Wow.
Have not touched. It's more than I think it's more than an hour, honestly. I was It's more than it's closer to 3 hours than 1 hour. Sorry. Yeah, I always shameful when I mention that.
Yeah, I've also not played these. I want to, but I don't have the time to put into them.
It suffers from the like antiquated Rockstar systems, though. It's the same kind of aiming where it's like that lock-on kind of aim, like that soft lock-on aim, which is fine, but like running, you're like holding or tapping A. Like there's just a lot of like kind of mechanics that I think Rockstar could update that I think make it tedious at first. But once you get through the initial few hours, the story, like I said, the story is great. And Rockstar always has great characters, and this game is no different. There's some very, strong personalities in the game, and visually too. I think that was one of the things at the time. I mean, gosh, even now it still looks amazing, but in 2018, I think it was like really pushing like the boundaries for what the consoles could do. So, that was definitely like another accolade for it. Not really anything bad you can say, other than for me, I felt like the online kind of let me down.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of, I don't have a good transition for this, but speaking of games that look pretty and look great, The Last of Us is on this list, and for good reason. Yeah, and I'm ashamed to say this is another game that I have played, but I haven't
Sean
beat.
Connery. I'm ashamed to say.
I am ashamed, but I have not beaten The Last of Us. But I know the story, and I played enough of it to say that it is deserving of this list. It looks great, and the gameplay is fun. The zombies are fun to interact with and fight, and the story is top tier, heart-wrenching and tear-jerking and all that good stuff with some humor sprinkled in, and it was good enough that it got adapted into a TV show this past year, which did very well. So, don't really know what else to say about. Not really much else I could say about it besides, it was good enough to spawn a TV show that has done very well for HBO. So
yeah, I've missed this boat when it was like originally released, and it's another one like God of War where it's been like pulling me closer to getting a PS5. For most of this list, if it's a PlayStation exclusive, I've not played it because I haven't owned a PlayStation in probably 20 years. The PS2 was the last one. I saw the show, loved the show, so I think I have to at some point play the game. If I'm not mistaken, though, this is another one of those PlayStation ports where they put it on PC, on Steam, but it got horrific reviews.
I'd believe that.
Because I believe the performance was like basically making the game unplayable. At least at launch. I don't know. I haven't heard much in the last few months. I don't know if that's fixed or not, but I'm a little leery to like make that my experience with the game versus like, do I just get a PS5 and just play it the way it was probably intended to be played?
Right. Yeah, for me, I've not played any of the games. I don't really know the storyline. Like, I understand there are zombies from Ryan's description. Like, I didn't watch any of the show either. But yeah, I feel like you're right. Playing it on an actual PlayStation as opposed to like some weird port, it's probably a breath of fresh air.
Damn, that was I was gonna use that.
Oh yeah, wow. Whoa, I didn't even try to do that on purpose. Last
Crazy.
game on the list. This is a little controversial with how high it is on a lot of these lists. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh man.
It says it all.
Oh man.
Okay, I will say it's a good game. I would even say it's a very good game. Do I think it deserves as many number ones as we've seen it in? I don't think so.
No.
I think we were talking about this probably, off mic, but is this just like recency bias? Like,
No, what this is it's, I think the most impressive thing about Zelda, both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, are the fact that like these games can actually run on the Switch. To me, that's the most impressive thing that the game accomplishes, is that they can somehow make that happen. But what I found playing Breath of the Wild, again, not a bad game. I just don't know where this hype comes in. I think people really do get immersed in the world, and I think that's part of it. I just, you could play 10 hours and I feel like you've done everything like game mechanic wise that you can. And I think I would actually put these games much higher myself if the weapons didn't break. I cannot stand fighting something and then your weapon just breaks and then you're like on to the next thing. And it's like eventually you're hitting them with a stick.
Yep.
And I'm just, I don't know. That alone frustrates the hell out of me. But I did like exploring the world, using the like glider. It feels great. Obviously the music, Zelda's got such like whimsical music. Like it's just, the atmosphere is perfect. The world, especially being on a Nintendo Switch, is amazing. I couldn't really get behind the combat. And like, that's such a big part of it. Plus, I get a little tired of games with puzzles.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's fun, and then it's like, okay, I've put this ball in this hole enough times, and I'm kind of done with that,
For me, Breath of the Wild, I still have to finish it. I got to the Hyrule Castle. I ran out of shields, and I went to go get more, and then stopped playing. So that's about where I'm at.
And isn't that another sort of like Elden Ring, where I think you can technically beat the game in like an hour, right? There's no necessarily like forged path for you, like in terms of what direction you have to go. I think you can literally go anywhere you want and do anything in any order. And that's probably one of the positives of the game. But for me, that's something that I struggle with, because 3 hours later and I'm still doing the same thing, and I don't know, did I make progress? Did I not make progress? I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have anything to contribute. I haven't played it. I don't have a Nintendo Switch. It looks pretty, and I agree with the music. The music is whimsical, as you said, Chris.
Oh yeah, specifically the music when you're riding a horse. For some reason, that shit slaps. I love that.
Slaps.
It's so good.
I knew you were going to say that word.
But that is the end of the aggregate of all these lists. Do we want to name maybe one game each? I know I'm kind of tying your hands here, but one game each that didn't appear on these lists that you think should have been. And I can probably go first. As much as I love CSGO and Counter-Strike in general, I think Guitar Hero should have been somewhere on this list. Oh my God. I talked about it today with some of my coworkers. Like Guitar Hero 3 was specifically, 2 and 3. But
dude,
so
Legends of Rock?
Good. Yeah, that was my favorite one.
Oh.
Didn't even get a mention on these lists.
Did you ever play the Aerosmith? Like, gosh, I don't even know what you call that. It was like a DLC. It was a release, but it was more, it was like more like an expansion. That was great. But I think Guitar Hero, I think it should be on the list, not only because it's a great game, that they were fun, but they kind of started like an entire genre of games. Now, they don't really exist anymore, but it did create like its own kind of like, kind of like subgenre sort of within like the music games.
Yeah, no, it's a ton of fun.
What about you guys?
Like, highly recommend. All right, I'll go. I did not see Super Smash Brothers on any of these lists, which is crazy.
That is really hard to believe, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty wild to me, and I think just like the cultural significance of Super Smash Brothers and like how it was like true couch co-op. Like it was, if you're a gamer, you probably have dabbled in Super Smash Brothers at least once, because your friends probably had it growing up, and you probably played at their house, or you had it, and people came to your house to play. So that was the case for me. I had it, and also my friends had it, so that we would have like Super Smash Brothers tournaments. Like before LAN parties were a thing, Super Smash Brothers tournaments were a thing. So just surprised it didn't make anyone's list, which is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to drop the bomb here. I think there is no way that Wii Sports does not end up on this list.
Wii Sports.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, that is good.
Wii Sports. Now, I don't know. Could you actually buy Wii Sports? Like, obviously it came with the Wii, but I don't even know, could you buy it? I bought, they released something called Wii Sports Resort.
Yeah.
And that was a good time. That was like a whole new set of like activities. But Wii Sports, classic and iconic. I mean, I don't know. There's not much to say other than like, I could literally just have played that. You know what I mean? Like, what console could you buy that comes with like some, free game? Then like that could just be all you ever play on the console.
Yeah. I feel like that game was just pure fun.
Yeah. And
I love that game.
Wait, what was the best sport? I think I know tennis is probably like the top, but I oddly enough liked the golf.
Oh, I never played golf was good. It was hard to dial in. I think I liked bowling the best.
Yeah,
bowling was fun.
Yeah, probably.
I played the baseball a lot too.
Baseball was fun, but I think I feel like of the, what is it, like 4 or 5 sports, I think baseball was probably like the least popular.
Probably.
And then I recently got, or not recently, it was like last year when it came out, it was Switch Sports. So it's literally like Wii Sports, but for Nintendo Switch. It's just like a new bunch of like sport games, and it just doesn't quite, it's good, but it doesn't hit the same. I think I played it like once, to be honest. Never touched it again. So
you were excited for that too. That's a shame. It has all the sports on there, like all the classics.
Well, it's got like badminton.
Oh, it's got like updated games.
Like soccer. Yeah. So like well, no, not like that. They made it different. Listen, it's not bad. It's just kind of one of those things too where like, I don't know. I don't think I'm in the age of like party games. You know what I mean? It's like, I rarely have like people over and we're like, oh, let's turn on the Switch. I don't know. I've just not done that recently. So that's probably my B. That's my B.
It's okay. You don't have any friends. It's fine.
All right, fine.
Damn.
All right, see ya.
Besides
bye.
us.
All right, well, there we go. Good list, good additions. All right, we're going to be skipping our recurring segment for time. So you can find us on Instagram at 5 o'clock sweats, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter at 5 o'clock sweats. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Anything I'm forgetting there, boys?
Nope.
This was a long one. We did
made
it
it this far. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, we're going to do this countdown telepathically, all right?
Okay.
So just look into my eyes.
Yeah.
And whenever you think it's right, just do it, all right? Stay sweaty.
Stay sweaty.
I feel like that's going to be close. I don't know. It feels like that's going to be good.
Derek,
right?
Derek and I felt in sync. My soul was touched by his glare.
Oh, my bad.
Whoa.
Be gentle.
What?
Be gentle.
I'm Puss in Boots. All right, I stopped it.
Dude, what was your B button doing the other day?
Oh, it's still sticky. It's like when I press it down too hard and like hold it
Yeah,
for a
but
little
what
bit.
was
It, like,
happening
B-button?
in the game? We were playing a game and it was doing something crazy. What were we playing MLB?
it was MLB, but I think it was maybe like my throws to first base were a little
We
weird.
kept faking the throw.
Oh yeah, I
I think that's what it was.
I would like
Jeez.
throw it.